Greetings to all South Africans. Greetings to all Ugandans. Greetings to all Africans. I am King Ichu, the radical Pan-African activist from Ambazonia, aka Ambasby, the 55th nation of the African Union. Doesn't matter what the African Union thinks. Doesn't matter what French Cameroon thinks. The government of La République du Cameroon. It doesn't matter what they think. The fact is, Ambazonia, Southern Cameroon, must obtain, achieve, acquire her independence as a sovereign nation. There is no going back. Absolutely no going back. But Africans, the discussion today has to do with the protest that is going on in South Africa against the government of Uganda. Uganda has decided to sign in law an anti-LGBT law that should be implemented in all over 54 nations of the African Union. That's something that we need to push. But for some reason, Black South Africans have taken the initiative to protest against what Ugandans are doing. Don't forget, Black South Africans are the ones that have done multiple times xenophobic actions towards other Africans in South Africa. They are the ones who are fighting to push other Black nationals out of South Africa into the country. Yet, they are protesting against the president of Uganda and the government of Uganda signing the anti-LGBT law. Let me tell you something, South Africans. For 500 years, Africans have been living under the laws and regulations of Western powers. Our humanity as a people has never been respected by Western powers. A perfect example is the nation known as South Africa. South Africa is what now? About 60 million people in South Africa. And out of that 60 million people, 80.2% are Black. Then you have what is called colored. And what is colored people in South Africa? Black people who have parents, one parent's African, one parent's non-African. And the colored people are 8.8%. These 8.8% are Black people who see themselves as colored because they have one parent that is African and the other that is non-African. So they don't see themselves as African. They see themselves as colored, but they are Africans. And if you add that combination of 8.8% color with the 80.2% Blacks, that's 90%. So South Africa Black population is 90%, not even 80.2%. So South Africa is a Black nation, but the economy of South Africa is controlled by 8.4% white. Why is that happening? Why are those who are protesting against the president of Uganda and the government of Uganda signing an anti-LGBT law, they coming out to protest against Uganda and the government of Uganda because Uganda have decided to sign a law that is anti-LGBTQ. But in South Africa, 8.4% control the economy. You got EFF protesting against the government because people don't have jobs, don't have money to feed themselves. Meanwhile, 8.4% of white population in South Africa control 72% of the land and control the economy of the land. And you think you are free as black people inside South Africa? To the point that you are coming out to protest against Uganda, a black nation that controls their own economy somewhat compared to the 80.2% blacks in South Africa who don't control their own economic resources. You're protesting against Uganda because they passed an LGBT law. Remember what the former president of Uganda did, Idi Amin? What did he do? He kicked out all the Indians in Uganda. And because of that, Uganda controls the economy. But you got whites in South Africa that is only 8.4% and control most of the economic power in South Africa. Yet you have the time to come and protest against Uganda, not to sign the LGBT law, anti-LGBT law. Why is Africa, or for some reason, talking about LGBT, or has been talking about LGBT for the past 10, maybe 15, 20 years? Because Western powers that control the global economy has an agenda to push LGBTQ in the continent of Africa. These are the same white structural power that came 500 years, colonized Africa, took blacks as slaves, set up types of government in Africa, exploited the resources and continue to exploit the resources, and the people of Africa do not even benefit from the resources that they have. Yet, for some reason, some so-called LGBT activists in South Africa and in some parts of Africa are protesting against the anti-LGBT law. Africans don't even have the right to control their own land. They have to abide by the laws of Western powers who colonize Africans. Do you think Africa as a continent and as a people are actually free? You think we have liberation, freedom in this world? This is a white dominated world. The reason why 8.4% whites in South Africa control the economy is because it is a white dominated world. There are many issues in South Africa that these so-called LGBT activists need to focus on, but does not decide to focus on fighting Africa to bring LGBTQ. Wait, did Africans say we want LGBTQ in the continent of Africa? How many percentage of Africans want LGBTQ in Africa? So for some reason now, Africans, black people who want LGBTQ in the continent of Africa, don't want to be Africans no more, but they want to be LGBTQ. That's their own tribe that they're creating that must be accepted in the continent of Africa. And if we don't, they bring the global power to come and force it down on us, because the global power is somehow the gods of Africa. But I'm telling you, South Africans, we black people are sick and tired of Western powers and the interference and using tactics to control Africa. And we will not tolerate or accept their so-called agenda of LGBTQ in the continent of Africa. We will not accept it. All 54 nations of Africa will have to accept that we will not, all 54 countries of Africa will have to will have to apply this anti-LGBT law in the continent of Africa, including South Africa. So I need those black South Africans who are going LGBT to start protesting against those who are protesting against the anti-LGBT laws that are being passed in Uganda. Because there is a power structure, there's a complete power change in the global dynamic. The reason why former President Bush, former President Trump is being treated as a criminal is because he recognized that there are only two genders in the world that is given to you on birth, which is man and female. And because of that, they know he has a high chance of winning this election. They are now trying to make him a criminal because he has stated that he will fight to make sure they only recognize two genders in the United States. That's why they are criminalizing him so that he won't run. But even if they criminalize him, there will be other people who are against the agenda of the LGBTQ in the United States, and that will rise and stop that agenda. So you may think the Western power that are pushing for LGBTQ in Africa will succeed. Nah, it will not. And even if it doesn't succeed in the United States, even if the fight against LGBTQ is not successful in the United States, but the fight against LGBTQ in Africa will be successful because we are Africans. Those so-called LGBTQ activists in the continent of Africa, in South Africa, who are speaking up against Uganda and the government of Uganda. You have parents, right? Your parents had you, and your parents had your parents, yeah, and your parents had. That's always been the cycle of life. It takes a man and a woman to bring in children. And if you can't even respect that as a human being, what gives you the right to change the entire natural phenomenon of life? That we must respect the laws of LGBTQ. We will not. Western powers will have to come up with better ways of controlling the population. Forcing down LGBTQ in Africa to control the population of Africa will not be accepted, will not be tolerated, and we will fight till they use nuclear power on us. And even if they use nuclear power on us, nuclear weapons on us, we will still fight. It's better to survive than to stick to their level of nonsense. We will not accept LGBTQ in Africa. And those so-called South Africans, black South Africans, who are fighting hard to make sure that they respect the humanity of LGBTQ. When has Western power respected the humanity of black people? They have never respected the humanity of black people. In UK, blacks are killed the highest by police. In the United States, blacks are killed and jailed the highest by white police. Blacks are killed by police terrorism. Blacks are killed. They're killed by white by white terrorism. And you think that the fact that they have the right to continue to kill black people and have been doing it for 500 years, by them bringing LGBTQ in the continent of Africa, they're bringing it for the interest of Africa? No, they're bringing it to destroy the people of Africa That way they could reap what they need from the continent of Africa. And some gullible fools in South Africa and the continent of Africa believe LGBTQ is a human right. What human rights? Have whites ever respected the human rights of black people? If they did, why did they enslave us? If they did, why did they neo-colonize us? If they did, why did they force their religion on us? They don't respect our humanity. And they will never respect our humanity unless we have the power to control our livelihood. And if we don't have the power to control our livelihood, then whatever they give us, we have nothing else but to shut our mouth and not complain. But so long as we have the will to master our faith and to be the masters of our faith, then we will fight the nonsense by any means necessary. This is King Echu, the radical Pan-Africanist. Till next time.